Right now, your baby's body is running a constant calculation. Every sound, every touch, every expression on your face, every moment of silence, all of it is being measured. And the instrument doing the measuring is a hormone called cortisol. You have heard of cortisol, stress hormone. Adults produce it during hard days, bad news, sleepless nights. But here is what almost no one tells parents about cortisol in a baby. A baby's cortisol system is not finished. It is new. It is raw. And unlike an adult whose stress response rises and falls with some regularity, a baby's cortisol system can get stuck, elevated, running silently in the background of a developing brain day after day in a home full of love. Dr. Megan Gunnar at the University of Minnesota has spent more than 3 decades studying exactly this. Her research shows that chronic cortisol elevation in the first year of life alters the physical structure of the infant brain, specifically the regions responsible for emotional regulation, stress tolerance, and the capacity for calm later in life. Not from trauma, not from neglect in any obvious sense. From 10 completely ordinary, everyday things that loving parents do without knowing what they are setting in motion. This is not about guilt. It is about the gap between what we think is harmless and what the biology actually registers. Stay with me. Because number 5 on this list is something that happens in almost every home, every single afternoon, and the cortisol research behind it is something I have never seen covered anywhere else. And by the time we get to number 8, you are going to feel very differently about one of the quietest moments in your day. Let's start with number 1. Distracted feeding. Feeding time feels like connection time. And it is. But here is what most parents do not realize. Your baby is not just eating during a feed. They are reading you with extraordinary precision. At every single feed, research out of the University of Cambridge found that infants as young as 4 months are actively monitoring their caregiver's face, gaze direction, and emotional expression during feeding. Not just during play, not just during social interaction, during feeds specifically. When a caregiver feeds with their eyes on a phone or their gaze distant and unfocused, the baby registers something they cannot name but feel immediately. Disconnection. And in the first year of life, disconnection registers as a low-grade threat signal. Cortisol rises, not dramatically, quietly. But the pattern across multiple feeds a day, every day, accumulates. You do not have to perform. You do not have to talk constantly. But the simple act of being present, eyes available, face open, changes what that feed communicates at the level of your baby's nervous system. Eye contact during feeding is not just bonding. It is biological regulation. And when it is consistently absent, the body keeps its own record. Which takes us to number 2, the household that never quiets down. Walk into most homes with a baby, and here is what you hear. Television in the background, music, conversation, the hum of the washing machine, a phone notification, the radio switching tracks, all of it, all at once, all day, and it all feels completely normal. Because for an adult nervous system, it is. We filter background noise automatically. We tune it out without effort. A baby cannot do this. A baby's auditory cortex is still building the architecture for filtering. Every sound comes in. Every sound requires processing. And when the sensory environment never quiets, never gives the nervous system a moment to settle, cortisol levels stay elevated. Research on noise exposure and infant stress response is consistent. Chronic low-level background noise, not loud, not alarming, just constant, produces measurably higher cortisol in infants compared to periods of quiet. This is not about eliminating sound from your home. It is about understanding that silence is not empty to your baby. Silence is recovery. Silence is the nervous system exhaling. 1 quiet hour. Not perfectly silent, just quieter. It matters more than most parents would ever guess. That leads us to number 3. The missed check-in gaze. Your baby is playing. They seem content. You are across the room. And then, for a fraction of a second, they look up. They look directly at you. And you miss it. This is called the check-in gaze. And it is one of the most documented and most consistently underestimated behaviors in all of infant research. Starting around 4 months, babies regularly look up from independent play to make brief visual contact with their caregiver. The purpose of this gaze is not social in the way adults think of social. It is regulatory. The baby is asking one question. Are you still there? Is it still safe to be here? When the answer comes back, when you meet the gaze, when your face says yes, I see you, I am here, cortisol remains low. The baby returns to play with a regulated nervous system. When the gaze is missed, repeatedly, consistently, the question goes unanswered. And an unanswered question about safety does not simply disappear. It registers. It accumulates. The cortisol ticks upward. You do not have to watch your baby every second. But the habit of glancing back, of being available for that check-in, is one of the quietest and most powerful regulatory acts a parent can perform. Number 4. Tense physical handling. This one is subtle, and it is almost never talked about. Think about how you pick up your baby when you are running late, when you are carrying the weight of everything that needs to happen before noon. Your hands are still gentle. You are not hurting them, but your movements are faster, tighter. The diaper change is efficient, not warm. The transfer is complete. Box checked. Here is what your baby's body registers in that moment. Touch is not just physical for an infant. It is neurological information. The pace of your hands, the tension in your grip, the temperature of your touch when your own stress is elevated. All of it is being read by your baby's developing nervous system. Research from the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami shows that infants can distinguish between calm, regulated touch and tense, hurried touch with remarkable sensitivity. And the physiological response to tense handling, even gentle tense handling, includes measurable cortisol elevation. Your baby does not know you are running late. They only know what your hands feel like. And right now, your hands feel like something is wrong. One breath before you pick them up. Just one, long enough to slow your hands. That is not a small thing. That is the entire intervention. Number 5. The environment that never slows down. Most parents have been told that stimulation is enrichment. Bright toys, sensory bins, baby gyms with flashing lights, music classes. The more you expose them to, the thinking goes, the more their brain develops. But here is what the stimulation culture consistently gets wrong. Enrichment requires recovery. A baby's nervous system does not grow stronger through more input. It grows stronger through cycles. Stimulation followed by quiet, engagement followed by rest, activation followed by regulation. When the environment never slows down, when stimulation is constant from morning to night, the baby's nervous system never gets the recovery window it needs. And in the absence of recovery, cortisol stays elevated, not dramatically, persistently. The babies who show the strongest early neural development are not the ones with the most sensory exposure. They are the ones whose caregivers read the look away, the glassy eyes, the sudden fussiness, and respond by reducing input rather than adding more. Overstimulation does not look like a crisis. It looks like a tired, confused baby you cannot figure out. And the answer, almost every time, is less. Less noise, less movement, less stimulation. A calm nervous system next to theirs. Number 6. Skipping the transition. You are moving your baby from awake to sleep. From one caregiver to another. From the car seat to the living room. From one activity to the next. And you are moving them without warning. No signal, no preparation, just the new state, arrived. For an adult, this is nothing. We navigate transitions 100 times a day without a second thought. For a baby, an abrupt transition without warning activates the orienting response, a hardwired reflex that floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline as the nervous system scans rapidly for threat. Babies cannot distinguish between a surprising but harmless transition and something actually dangerous. The brain's threat detection system processes the surprise first and asks questions second. Simple transition signals reduce this cortisol spike significantly. A consistent verbal cue before every transition. The same phrase each time you move toward sleep. A moment of stillness before the handoff. Predictability is not boring to a baby's nervous system. Predictability is safety. Number 7. The still face. And here we are at the one I promised you. Here is what happens when you pick up your phone while your baby is watching your face. Your face goes still. Not angry, not sad, expressionless, absent. The lights are on and no one is responding. Dr. Edward Tronick at Harvard designed one of the most replicated experiments in all of developmental science. The still face experiment. Mothers were instructed to hold a normal, warm interaction with their baby, then suddenly adopt a blank, unresponsive expression. Within seconds, the babies became visibly distressed. They tried everything. They smiled, they pointed, they vocalized, they reached. They used every social tool available to them to re-engage the face they depended on. When nothing worked, they collapsed inward. They turned away. Some began to cry. All of them showed measurable cortisol elevation within minutes. Now here is what makes this critical for you. Your baby cannot distinguish between a parent who is emotionally absent and a parent who is absorbed in a screen. The neurological response is identical. Brief, repeated, still-face moments across thousands of daily interactions are not harmless. They are one of the most consistent cortisol triggers in ordinary home environments. This is not about guilt. This is not about your phone being evil. It is about understanding what your face means to your baby. Your face is their primary source of safety information. When that information goes blank, even briefly, even repeatedly, the body keeps score. If no one has walked you through what is actually happening inside your baby's stress system, the biology, the real consequences, the small shifts that change everything, this is exactly what I make this channel for. Hit subscribe right now because what we are releasing next goes even deeper into the science your baby needs you to know. You do not want to miss it. Number 8. The unpredictable day. Your baby cannot tell time. They have no concept of a schedule. But here is what they do have. A nervous system that is constantly trying to predict what comes next. Predictability is not a parenting preference. It is a neurological need. When a baby can begin to anticipate the rhythm of the day, when hunger will be met, when sleep will come, when a familiar face will appear, cortisol stays lower. The nervous system can release its vigilance. When the day is unpredictable, feeds at different times, sleep at different times, the environment constantly shifting, the nervous system cannot settle into the low alert state it needs in order to develop optimally. Research from the National Institutes of Health has linked consistent daily rhythm in the first year of life to lower baseline cortisol, better sleep architecture, and stronger development in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for emotional regulation and executive function. You do not need a rigid schedule. Babies are not machines, but a consistent rhythm, a recognizable pattern of what comes after what, is one of the most powerful cortisol-regulating tools available to you. And it costs nothing. Number 9. The reunion without a greeting. You have been gone. 2 hours, 6 hours, the whole workday. You walk back in, and you move directly into logistics. The bag gets set down, someone gets updated, something gets checked. The return happens without a reunion. Here is what the research tells us about that moment. The reunion is one of the most neurologically significant events in an infant's day. Dr. Mary Ainsworth's foundational attachment research showed that it is not just the separation that shapes the baby's stress response. It is the quality of the return. When the return of a primary caregiver is warm, present, and acknowledged, when the baby's face is met, their name spoken, their existence registered, cortisol that elevated during the separation drops rapidly. When the reunion is absent, logistical, or delayed, that cortisol drop does not happen. The nervous system remains in the elevated state it entered during the separation. A reunion does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be long. It simply has to be real. 2 minutes of being fully there, face available, voice warm, attention genuinely given, is biologically significant in a way that nothing else in the hour that follows can replicate. Number 10. The touch that is missing. The last one. And it is the quietest one. Babies in loving homes sometimes experience something researchers call tactile poverty. Not neglect, not coldness. Simply the gradual replacement of incidental physical contact with functional contact. The hold that used to linger becomes a transfer. The carry that used to trail off in warmth becomes a set-down. The hand that used to rest on their back while they played stopped resting there somewhere along the way. Touch is not a luxury for a developing nervous system. It is a primary regulatory input. Every incidental moment of physical contact, a hand on their back, a cheek touched while passing, the weight of being carried close, communicates one thing at the biological level. You are not alone. You are safe. I am here. Without that input, running quietly in the background of the day, cortisol rises. Not dramatically, persistently. A low-grade stress response in a baby who is loved, fed, and cared for, just not touched enough in the small, casual, constant ways that the nervous system reads as safety. You do not need a new routine. You need one hand on their back more often than not. You need to let the hold last a little longer than efficiency requires. You need to let your presence be physical, not just spatial. That is the whole intervention. That is the research. That is what changes the cortisol baseline in a baby who is already loved but needs to feel it in a language older than any word you could say. 10 things, none of them dramatic, all of them ordinary, all of them happening right now in homes where parents are trying. Here is what I want you to carry out of this. Your baby's cortisol system is not fragile. It is responsive. It responds to you, to the quality of your presence, to the warmth of your hands, to the availability of your face, to the quiet you bring into a room when everything else is loud. You do not have to be perfect. The research is very clear that what shapes a baby's stress system is not the absence of difficult moments. It is the consistent return to safety, the repair, the coming back. Dr. Megan Gunner's work shows that babies with even one consistently responsive, warm caregiver show dramatically lower cortisol profiles, even in environments that are otherwise stressful. One person, consistently showing up. That is the biology. That is you. If this video gave you something, one moment, one shift, one thing you will do differently tomorrow, share it with a parent who needs to hear it. Because the most powerful thing we can do for the generation we are raising right now is simply understand what is actually happening inside them. Hit that subscribe button now and turn on the bell notification if you found these lessons helpful, and do not go yet, because I will see you in the next one.